I am Zona Heers Shu, and this is not a story. This is my truth. The cold grip of death was not what I expected. It wasn't peaceful, not like they say. It was violent, terrifying. There was nothing gentle about the way my life was ripped away from me, no soft descent into the darkness. It came like a hand, wrapping around my throat, pulling me down into a place where time and light ceased to exist. And yet, despite it all, I lingered. I could feel my own heartbeat stop, my breath taken away in a silent scream. But my mind, my will, it refused to die. I wasn't ready to leave this world. Not yet. Not without the truth. I used to love him, or at least I thought I did. But love and fear can blur together when you're trapped. When every day becomes a careful dance around his moods, his fury waiting just beneath the surface. I had seen his anger before, but in the early days, he'd hide it behind a smile. A charming grin. Eyes that gleamed with something darker. Something I refused to see. But after the wedding, the mask fell away. He changed. Or maybe I was too blinded by hope to see what was happening to me. The bruises that blossomed on my arms. The harsh words that cut deeper than any knife. He made me small. Smaller than I had ever been. I lived in his shadow, cowering from his temper, pretending that everything was fine. But that cold January morning, it wasn't fine. I woke up with a sense of dread. I remember the way the room felt. Heavy, like the air had thickened overnight. I could barely move, my body aching from the blows I endured the night before. Edward was already up, his footsteps thundering through the house as he prepared to leave for the day. The sound of his boots on the wooden floor was like a countdown. Each step a reminder that he would be gone soon, leaving me alone with my fear. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. My chest felt tight, like I was suffocating, though I couldn't tell if it was from my injuries or something deeper, something darker, pulling at me from the inside. He barely looked at me as he left, slamming the door behind him. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, my heart pounding in my chest, my thoughts swirling. I tried to rise, but a sharp pain shot through me, and I collapsed back onto the bed, gasping for breath. That's when I felt it. The darkness. It wasn't just a feeling, it was real. It was here, in the room with me. And then, as if summoned by my thoughts, it took form. I felt a pressure around my throat. It wasn't my hands. It was his. Edward's grip, squeezing tighter and tighter, though he wasn't even there. His face swam before me in my mind, contorted with rage, his eyes wild with hate. I tried to scream, tried to claw at the hands that weren't there, but I couldn't breathe. I couldn't fight. The world around me spun, my vision narrowing until all that was left was darkness. And then, nothing but silence. It was strange standing in that room and looking down at myself. There I was, my body limp and twisted on the bed, my neck bent at a horrible angle. It felt like I was watching someone else. It didn't seem real, not at first. But it was real. I remember stepping closer, trying to reach out. But my hand passed right through my own body. A cold shiver ran through me, and that's when I knew. I was dead. Edward had killed me. I didn't know how long I stood there, staring at my lifeless body. Time didn't mean anything anymore. It could have been minutes, hours, days. The world outside moved on without me, but I couldn't leave. Not yet. Not while the truth remained hidden. He thought he had won. He thought my silence would last forever. But he didn't know me, not really, not the part of me that refused to be silenced. Edward returned that afternoon. I watched him from the shadows, my anger simmering beneath the surface. He had no idea I was still there, watching, waiting. He found my body, crumpled on the bed like a discarded doll. I expected panic, remorse, something, but all I saw was calculation. He called for the doctor, but he made sure no one looked too closely. He dressed me himself, choosing a high-collared dress to hide the bruises he had left on my neck. He whispered lies to anyone who would listen, spinning a tale of illness and fainting spells. A convenient story that no one dared to question. No one but my mother. It was my mother's love that brought me back. The moment she laid eyes on me at the funeral, she knew a mother's heart knows the truth, even when it's buried beneath layers of lies and deceit. She stared at my face, searching for answers, but I couldn't speak. Not in the way she needed me to, not yet. but I could still reach her. I had to. That night, I found her alone, sitting by the fire, her eyes red from tears. I felt the pull, the force drawing me to her, stronger than anything I had ever felt in life. I appeared at the foot of her bed, watching as she cried herself to sleep. I stood there, invisible, for what felt like hours, and then, as if she sensed me, her eyes fluttered open. She gasped, but she didn't scream. She knew who I was. "Zona," she whispered, her voice trembling. I didn't speak. I couldn't. But I could show her night after night. I returned. Each time stronger than the last, I showed her the bruises, the marks around my neck, the truth of what Edward had done to me. I showed her the rage in his eyes, the way his hands had squeezed the life out of me until I had no more breath left to take. At first, she didn't want to believe it. No one ever wants to believe that kind of horror. But I was relentless, showing her the truth again and again until she couldn't deny it anymore. Edward had killed me, and I wasn't going to let him get away with it. My mother took action. She demanded that my body be exhumed. She demanded justice. The authorities were reluctant at first, but when they examined my body, they found exactly what I had shown her. My neck was broken, my windpipe crushed. There was no denying it now. Edward was arrested, put on trial for my murder. He still tried to deny it, but the evidence was too much. He had thought he could bury the truth along with me, but I had made sure it surfaced. I had made sure he paid for what he had done. But even in death, justice feels hollow. I'm still here, in the cold shadows of Greenbrier, watching as the world moves on without me. People talk about me now, calling me the Greenbrier ghost. They tell my story as if it's just a legend, a ghost tale to frighten children. But it's not just a story. It's my life. It's my death. Edward may be gone, but the pain of what he did will always linger, and I am still bound to this place, searching for the peace that death could not give me. Now I am just a whisper in the dark.